Good afternoon. I am Hong Jung-pyo from NETSCOUT. So the NETSCOUT may be known to you, and 4 years ago, NETSCOUT acquired Arbo, and the solutions are coming out based on the collaboration between NETSCOUT and Arbo. And during my presentation, I am going to talk about the recent cyber attack trends, including DDoS in the first half of this year. There are 4 or 5 themes, and by the time I get to number 4, I think I can explain the security visibility provided by NETSCOUT. And there will be some summary pages after explaining these 4 themes. From January to June this year, there are noticeable trends. Of course, there have been the DDoS and ransomware attacks, but there are the certain characteristics that we defined during the first half, and you can find details if you go to the netscout.com/threat report. We are issuing threat reports twice a year. You can see our past reports and find the major trends in the first half of 2021. To be exact, we analyzed the data for the past 7 months. Cyber threats are multifold these days. So 7 vectors were found during 7 months. And small devices are more exposed to DDoS attacks. And in the bottom, there is a characteristic called the triple extortion. And when hacking organization launches attack, there are not a one-off problems. So they attack from multiple fronts. They insert malware, steal data, and launch DDoS attacks at the same time. So hackers try many fronts in order to increase the possibility of payout. So multiple attacks, simultaneous attacks, and bandwidth and ISP enterprises are all the targets of their attack. You can find the details by reading the threat report that NETSCOUT issues. On the right-hand side, you can see the trend of Korea, and here you can find the global trend. The green is this year. The size of attack and the number of attacks are increasing. Every month, we see an increasing number of cyber attacks and malware and ransom attack, as well as DDoS attack. And the maximum bandwidth to attack was 1.5 tera. And so many large-scale attacks were launched, especially in Korea from January to September. The 70,000 to 80,000 attacks were launched. Last year, it was 60,000 to 70,000, and Korea joined the ranks of advanced countries. And Korea is getting more attention with the cultural waves and BTS. Maybe because of the factors, Korea is exposed to more attacks globally. So in the APEC region, the number of attacks has decreased. However, Korea witnessed a 10% increase in the number of attacks. 300 gigabandwidth attacks were launched, including flooding attack, amplification attack was launched. As I mentioned in the beginning, multi-factor attacks are being launched, including fragment reset and the amplification, and so many types of attacks that are happening in Korea. This is a summary of our report. Globally, there was a 106% increase in multi-vector attacks, and the in terms of a TBPS, there was an increase in 106% in bandwidth. And the last one is a botnet exposure. Small IoT devices and the Wi-Fi, the routers, and a lot more IT devices are subject to DDoS attacks. It means that in order to protect the service, you need to understand small size attacks targeting automotive vehicles and drones. So we need to understand the attack trends targeting IoT devices. This is a summary of a recent attacks seen from another perspective, and DNS server was the target, and if the VPN is attacked, then it paralyzes the system and the network. And again, it's a multi-vector attack. Size and the frequency have increased. Also, the number of vectors has increased to increase the possibility of a success in Latin America and the EMEA region. You can see the trend. Anyhow, the attacks continue. You can see the attacks against Korea, and until July, 127 incidents were reported as a ransomware damage. There have been smashing and phishing, and because of its multi-vector attack, many systems and the software have been attacked. So we have to strengthen defense against such attacks, and to do so, we need to enhance the visibility of security. Then I'm going to talk about what security visibility is and how to secure visibility. In the past, when we talk about security, it was about flows and the log collection. To analyze security, we analyze logs after some event occur. However, these days, security is more difficult because we need to check user data real time. Even though it says users, we need to check small devices, including IoT devices, but we cannot create flows or check logs out of the small IoT devices. And application operation data needs to be monitored to server communication and microservice architecture communication that should be monitored, and the user communication and server communication have to be checked. Then all the data that generate network traffic have to be checked. Before it was L4, a switch, backdata, but HF proxy and software the level network data is generated like ACS PyLeaf and UI span and traffic separation and VXN. So we have a lot more the components and levels to be secured. So all the data flowing across the service needs to be checked. So with existing log scheme, we cannot ensure visibility. So we have to use data accessed by users, operation data at the application level, all the data that generate network traffic are subject to the visibility check. In our security seminar, we sometimes invite Dr. Eric Cole. He's not employee our company, but he often says number one and number two. There are companies that have suffered cyber attacks, and there are companies that have suffered cyber security but do not know that happened. And if there are two groups of companies, if you know what happened, then you may be monitoring in the wrong area. If cybersecurity hasn't been detected for the last 12 months, it doesn't mean you have complete security, but you are monitoring and detecting cybersecurity incidents in the wrong place. So you need to see in order to respond. The number of attacks is increasing, and the more components need to be managed, including cloud and the IoT devices, and AI and machine learning are implemented for security analysis. And the hacker groups continue to attack with novel techniques. Then, so we are faced with problems. We are not aware of the emerging threats, and it's not up to the network team or security team, and we have to know everything about the system and the devices. So we need to collect information beyond logs, so including data on IoT devices and the cloud, and we have to ensure the cyber threat visibility based on dynamic and real-time data. So we are emphasizing that we have to capture real-time data. As I mentioned, server-to-server communication, packet and network traffic should be the basis of analysis. Machine learning and AI are eventually controlled by humans. It will be really nice if you automate everything with solutions and products. However, we need to enhance visibility using the machine learning and the AI. And whether you are using the AIF or the other solutions, you have to be aware of the dynamic data that are capturing the user behavior and service behavior. Data needs to be collected and analyzed, and you automate with machine learning. And this is the basic flow, including big data and machine learning. But what's missing here is eventually the humans need to take care of this. Somebody in the team, my senior or my boss or my junior, are analyzing, extracting, and set up policies to develop the SOAR and other the services. But we need to minimize the human and manual work. And cloud data and the cloud data has to be analyzed. And sometimes the cloud data is analyzed by as an external experts, but we want to minimize the need for that. And sticks and taxi framework is explained here, and we may use sticks and the taxi and the meter tag framework, and by the using it for threat intelligence framework. And threat intelligence should be executed immediately. This is very important for security visibility. You can see this real time if you visit our booth. It's horizon.netscout.com. We are monitoring 1/3 of internet traffic using Atlas, and using this, we create threat intelligence. This is our threat intelligence, and As I mentioned, light attack, integration are incorporated, and threat intelligence and mitigation has been adopted, and ARBO or NETSCOUT are world's number one DDoS solution with 20 years of experience. So Atlas is monitoring one-third of internet traffic monitoring. Based on this, we are issuing threat report. So our equipment is collecting data real time. This kind of AI threat intelligence is incorporated, and this threat intelligence is based on our machine learning and AI, and the policy is reflected in your product and service network infrastructure without a human intervention. It's an automatic process to detect threats. Put it simply, this is a structure. This kind of equipment collects data to check any violation of a policy, and it so automatically learns by itself. And AIF is connected here, and collected data is mapped, and globally captured data is sent out back to the equipment once the equipment is installed, and threats are collected and reported. It's a very simple approach, but you don't have to upload data here. It's an option for customers. So now I want to talk about how we can connect security visibility with threat intelligence of a NETSCOUT. So detection and response are automated because of threat intelligence, and AIF is a threat intelligence. And we collect network traffic using mirror, so it doesn't affect operating services. And you need to analyze the collected data. So we have a workflow for analysis and verification, but you want to see the details of a payload and the policy establishing procedures. So in that case, you can see packet forensic with threat intelligence. It's already went through AI, but we can provide information if you make a request related to AI analysis. So infrastructure has a very complicated scheme, but we make a mirror and a darkened cube notice and private cloud environment, public environment. Data is collected, and also in SDN environment and virtual environment are supported. We extract data, then extracted data is sent to our equipment wherever the equipment is installed. Once the equipment receives data, this web analysis screen performs analysis. So it's a browser level. It shows who launched the attack and what systems were affected. And again, the private environment and the container environment are supported. So we are very advanced in the removing blind spot in security visibility. Broadly, there are three perspectives. First, security risk. Second, DDoS. And the third is a cyber threat. There are applications that shouldn't be used, like FTP and the old versions. They can be example, but there will be corporate policy requiring and HTTP or the TLS 1.3 or above should be a must. Then the version 1.2 may be blocked. So wrong applications and violating applications are seen. And since it's a DDoS, you can see information about DDoS and threat intelligence. AIF-based threats can be seen. This is our actual risk. It's called a risk dashboard. It shows a threat indicator and cyber threat, lab, malware, FTP, and SSL, weak SSL, expired SSL, or DDoS, or CM attack, application attacks are shown. Threat intelligence is shown at the risk and threat level. This kind of dashboard can be provided. This is a global map. I'm not sure if you can find the blue dots and the lines. And the yellow is problems, and the normal is blue, and the red is a new traffic. So if you're managing MPLS, you shouldn't have any red line, or you shouldn't be have any unknown red line. So you can have a high-level view about problematic IP and ISP's use and the data usage status. What we can do also includes host analysis. It's very simple. Based on this IP address, there was a 10 megabytes request and the response was 5 megabytes and the 43 conversations were reported. It means that there were 43 communication incidents, and the red is normal and the red is abnormal. And if you click this, you can see the details. It's AI intelligence based, the DDoS based, as application problem based screens. If you click red, it should be changed. Using our AIF or threat intelligence solutions, you can see the result of the analysis. Using this alone, you can detect problematic communications at one glance. In host investigation screen, it's a throughput result based result. If you click this, you can see this kind of a graph. If you click this, you can see a cyber threat. And if you click application, this is a result you can find. In one host analysis, you can see everything including the types of threats, effective traffic, and what kind of cyber threats were posed. This is a dashboard screen, and if you click a specific malware, you can see the number of events and the number of specification is clicked. Then you can move on to the whole specification, and there are 8 conversation, but 100% is abnormal. It has malicious traffic. So with this screen alone, you can have a very high level view about the problematic communication and affected systems. And the session analysis is also provided, and it can be verified at the packet level. This is a packet screen, and the captured packet screen can be immediately checked, even though you can see a virus shocker. This is the same screen. So 450K was received and 8 are all abnormal. And if you click and expand, you can get this kind of a result. It means that with the screen alone, you can go deeper by expanding this screen. If you click expand, the rest of the endpoints affected can be found. Then you can see the root cause and the infection pathway. You can carry out a lot of activities with the screen. This is the same dashboard and same data, but since this is linked with Splunk, data mining, so work may be carried out as an additional layer. Again, this is Splunk. And this kind of data can be shared with NETSCOUT. And this is Amazon Security Hub linked. Using RESTful API, data can be exchanged, and of course, Amazon and Splunk have libraries. You can have a visibility into a lot of data, and the integration is very easy. This is a Palo Alto firewall, and this is our DDoS equipment. So OCI, the visibility tool, so detect threats, and it can be linked with the mitigation solution because a policy can be sent to the other systems. So policy integration is also supported. And this has been blocked in this equipment. So in this example is a Palo Alto and a Portnell, but you can link to other mitigation solution using RESTful API, even though some development efforts are required. So automation scope is expanding. That we recently launched this solution, so automation part is now improving and expanding. So network data is collected and analyzed, and our equipment or firewall receive the data. Palo Alto Portnet has a library, and the CM and SOA can be integrated. Palo Alto and Demisto can be used. And as a Korean solution, so we are working with Igloo solution. So this is a very good structure for automation and the AIF. Our threat intelligence of feed can be provided. And this is a screen that has a DDoS equipment data. The data is blocked and protected. So in our DDoS defending equipment, there are the four important functions. So the packets that are analyzed, and we show the payload to directly reflect our policy. You don't have to download and open the Wireshark because this shows everything you need to know, and the speed is very high. And outbound, meaning that the communication from inside to outside can be blocked. So these are four important features. This is our solution called IDS. Again, it can operate with Splunk, and our NDR solution with threat intelligence has a Omnis IDS. It can support integration with such systems. In concluding, my points I want to make it are: you have to have security visibility based on threat intelligence. So it's like you have a answer list for all the questions, and you have to check a lot of segments. The segments include those affecting the network, including web server. And the DB-based service is disappearing, and many unicorn companies, including delivery companies and the Coupang and the Yanulja, and they are moving toward the Microsoft service architecture, and they use Kafka and the Run AI to do so. there are a lot of services being used, and such services are getting sophisticated. So you have to ask yourself, but if you're not sure the scope of monitoring, then you have to check everything. And traffic visibility should include all the data coming in, because this is a basic principle you need to keep to protect you against the DDoS. And server to server communication is increasing, and the cloud communication needs to be considered as internal communication. So you have to check the communication from inside to outside. Sometimes the malware is inserted in turn into internal network, and after a few months, the hackers start to launch attack. So there should be so many types of monitoring approaches, and visibility check should be based on threat intelligence. You need to set a policy and identify threats, but they are necessary, but it should be more convenient. So AIF is really important. So real-time threat intelligence has to be secure to make your services more reliable. This is it for my presentation. Then